The combat arms of the Indian Army are tasked with a clear-cut role of engaging with the enemy in active combat whenever a situation of a limited aggression or a full-scale war is harped upon by the adversary or enemy. The well-defined and clearly demarcated roles of our armed forces helps each arm discharge its role to full effectiveness and clinical precision during a military confrontation or a war. While the infantry holds ground and also makes strategic inroads into enemy territory by carrying out small to medium arm assaults on their frontline positions via assault rifles and machine gun fire, the artillery provides lethal firepower of tectonic magnitudes via field gun and medium howitzer shelling to destroy strategic establishments and weaken enemy defenses beyond repair. In the center of this finely tuned jigsaw puzzle lies the armored corps and the mechanized infantry, that provide the definitive punch to the enemy with highly calibrated firepower of pinpoint accuracy from lethal mean machines, namely, the tanks and armored fighting vehicles, ACP/BNP. The combined assault, if well coordinated, has always left a gaping hole in the enemy and dealt a death blow. China is in the process of supplying 4 armed drones to Pakistan, ostensibly to protect the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and the People's Liberation Army Navy's new base at Gwadar port, according to people familiar with the development said on Sunday. Gwadar, in the highly restive southwestern province of Baluchistan, is described as the crown jewel of China's $60 billion investment in Belt and Road Initiative projects in Pakistan. The supply of 2 systems, each has 2 drones and a ground station, comes ahead of Beijing's plan to jointly produce 48 gigajoules-2 drones, the military version of Winglong 2, designed in China for use by Pakistan's Air Force. China has already been selling the reconnaissance and strike drone Winglong 2 to several countries in Asia and West Asia and emerged as the largest exporter of armed drones. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, arms transfer database, China had delivered 163 UAVs to a dozen-odd countries including Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Algeria, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates from 2008 to 2018. Unlike the US that follows an elaborate process to determine and regulate the end use of its high-end weapons, China has no such arms. China's attack drone, said to be armed with 12 air-to-surface missiles, are currently being used by UAE-backed forces in Libya against the Turkish-backed government in Tripoli with limited success. 4 of them were shot down in the last 2 months in Libya, according to data compiled by non-profit Drone Wars UK. China's aggressive postures in Ladakh, where the 2 armies are engaged in a standoff that has lasted 2 months, and its supply to Pakistan has prompted India to convey to the US its renewed interest in the medium-altitude long-endurance (MALE) armed Predator B drone, which not only collects intelligence through surveillance and reconnaissance but also locates and destroys the target with missiles or laser-guided bombs. The Russians are conducting an intensive advertising campaign to encourage India to buy short-range Pantsir-S-1 anti-aircraft systems, learned BulgarianMilitary.com citing Defense24. For now, the Russians have to enjoy the 2018 contract when they managed to sell 5 S-400 Triumph anti-aircraft batteries to India for $5.43 billion. Indians are not taking any serious actions yet, which would indicate their strong interest in subsequent air-to-air systems. That is why the Russians must take the initiative and try to emphasize everywhere how good and modern their anti-aircraft systems are. Particular emphasis is placed primarily on the advertising of self-propelled rocket artillery anti-aircraft Pantsir-S-1 sets. Any occasion is used for this, including a visit to Moscow of the Indian delegation with Defense Minister Rajnath Singh at the end of June this year. During the negotiations, intensive negotiations were conducted on the supply of 33 MiG-29 and Su-30 Mki fighters. The latter are manufactured under license at the HAL plant in India. Editor's note, to India, not concluded, however, with the conclusion of the contract. But according to the Russians, the issue of signing the contract for the purchase of Pantsir-S-1 sets in their latest version was also to be discussed then. The incentives were primarily to be positive combat experiences that this system gained during operations in the Middle East. Particularly useful for Indians is the ability to combat unmanned aerial vehicles and beyond the range of their weapons. The X-44 Manta, which stands for Multi-Axis No-Tail Aircraft, was a futuristic-looking derivative of Lockheed Martin's iconic F-22 design. According to Air Force magazine, Lockheed Martin may have designed up to 6 different airframes similar to the F-22 Raptor that were offered to the Air Force. Though none of them were picked up, this particular design is said to have drawn the interest of NASA as a research platform with which to test controlling tailless designs using thrust vectoring. Meet the X-44 Manta. Like the F-22 on which the X-44 was based on, it would have been highly stealthy and may have even been stealthier than its F-22 parent. Renderings of the X-44 concept indicate that it would have carried over the F-22's air intake inlets that are designed to diffuse enemy radar inside of them rather than reflecting radar outwards. Like the iconic B-2 stealth bomber, the X-44 design was tailless. Sans tail, these tailless designs are inherently stealthier than other tailed airframes. The X-44 would have had a very low radar signature. Instead of using standard control surfaces to maneuver while in flight, the Manta maneuvered using thrust vectoring, in which the dual engine's exhaust nozzles could direct exhaust in various directions. With over 30,000 additional troops being deployed in the Ladakh sector to counter the Chinese aggression, the Indian Army is going to place emergency orders for extreme cold weather tents for the soldiers on the borders. The need for the tents is being felt as the deployment on the line of actual control, LAC, is expected to be prolonged as the senior armed forces officers feel that the standoff is likely to continue at least till September to October time frame. Even if the Chinese withdraw from the locations, we cannot take chances for the future as well. The guard will always have to be up, and that is why we are going to place orders for thousands of tents for extreme cold weather survival in eastern Ladakh sector, top army sources told ANI. All along the border, apart from weaponry and ammunition, the major focus of our emergency procurement would be on providing for habitat for soldiers, they said.
Please subscribe to Daily Defense Digest for more such videos.